Finally, we're permitted to enter Josh's domain.
I literally had 3 minutes to scarf down some spaghetti. So
let everyone in and then scarf down your spaghetti, brah.
A wee bit late.
If we were in school, I would have given you 2 more minutes, and I'm walking down to the teacher, man. 7 minutes, I'm gone.
Same thing, virtual status.
Well, at least I'm not the only one doing spaghetti night tonight.
Well, that's good. That's good. My parents are currently living with us, so they made spaghetti. And I'm just enjoying it.
Bum, bum, bum. What's good, people? What's good? Derek, you made the slideshow today, so get excited.
What's that? I may be what?
You made the slideshow today.
Oh, is that good or bad?
I don't know. Let's see. We got Brock. I don't think Brock's here yet. Brock made the slideshow. Christopher, he made the slideshow.
Deshaun.
Yeah, Ashley, Deshaun, Sammer, and
yeah, how is Sammer staying in here, but he's not in here?
It's all right. They're with us in spirit via artificial intelligence. What I'm gonna have them do, what I want to do next time, not next time, but in the future, I'm gonna have some of the students record their voices, and we'll have them read the slides artificially.
Oh,
it's gonna be good. All right. I'm gonna have to bounce at 7 Eastern, yeah. So I got 25 minutes or so before I have to bounce today. I'm gonna go see. Full disclosure, I'm gonna go see the Barbie movie. So,
wow.
the nature of being a girl dad and having 3 little girls. So, they planned it, so I gotta go.
This meeting is being recorded.
What I will say, public service announcement: you guys don't have your pictures updated in Slack. It's really hard for me to track some of you down to get your picture into the slideshow. So throw your pictures in the Slack, throw your personal information in the Slack so we can get a hold of each other a little bit better. We are gonna, again, we're continuing to organize a little bit better for you guys, have a roster and to be able to collaborate even easier. But Slack right now is the main medium for that. So make sure your information's updated, pictures, phone numbers, emails, all that fun stuff is in there. Ashley, I'm glad you made it. You made the slideshow today.
Everybody that made the slideshow. Man, it's a party.
I might have got a little carried away with Midjourney. Some of them were so terrible that I had to put them in. Some of them were nice. So, anyways, I'm excited. I'm not going to be able to see everyone's reaction because I'm going to have to dip out after 20 minutes.
Have you tried messing around with DaVinci yet?
I haven't messed around with DaVinci. Just haven't had the time. I've heard good things though.
It's good. It has like a Midjourney filter.
Awesome.
Thought you had unlimited time, man.
Yeah, I do, man. That's it. It's great. You got all the time in the world. You can do whatever you guys want. Just start failing at things at that same time. Every time you say yes, you say no to something else.
You say no to everything else.
There you go.
People still flowing in. Matt, you are the ringleader here of the slideshow. So you sent the slides to me though, and you got to dip out. So let me pull the slides so that when you dip out, we're not struggling.
Sounds good.
You do kind of have this Ken vibe going on tonight.
Yeah, I got the pink shorts.
Yep, I knew it. I knew it.
I was gonna go with the full up outfit. I was gonna go to like the thrift store and just get the cheesiest outfit possible. My buddy, he's got a full pink suit that he's wearing tonight. My other friend who has 2 little girls that are coming. I didn't spend the time to go to the thrift store to do that. So
he's got a full pink suit.
Yeah, I was gonna order mine off like Shein or freaking Temu or something. Get like a $5 ridiculous suit that was gonna fall apart after I wore it anyways. Those are fun. Yeah. Anyway,
I know we're not talking real estate, but we're having a good time. That's what it's all about.
Let's go. Let's talk some real estate. Let's talk what Josh's specialty is, guys. So today we're starting. So again, we're separating the Monday Thursday series for you. This Thursday series, we're starting a new series what we're calling Brand Mastery for Real Estate Investors. So it's going to be a 5-part series focusing on brand development, kind of getting into the weeds into that. If you want to go to the next slide there, Josh, this is what the series is going to be involved. Step 1 is going to be laying the foundation. So essential branding concepts, really going to understanding the foundations of building a brand, which as we're diving into today. So it's not going to foreshadow too much there. Next week, building virtual connections. So emphasizing social media and real estate, emphasizing the various outlets and tactics, tips, and there's no wrong answer necessarily, but we'll outline some different strategies in the social media world. Then after that, we're going to jump into optimizing customer relationships. So we'll talk about CRMs. If you guys don't know what that means, it's customer relationship management tools, as well as other various ways to really optimize staying in touch with your customers. And who are your customers, right? You have your active investors, you have your potential leads, and kind of how to flow and build funnels and all that fun stuff. Then we'll jump into building your online property, which is your website. So we'll talk about website development and different tips and tactics there, and any sort of outsources or any sources that we have personally to offer you guys in that world. And some late breaking stuff there that we haven't even engaged in, but I want to start. I'm excited to get to that lesson because I'm going to dive into like AI tools. There's a website called Durable that we're going to try to maybe even build a website real time for you guys in the class. But I got to test it to see if it actually works, but nobody swears by it. And then we'll jump into influence and authority and talking about how to become like a thought leader in the real estate space and the various outlets there. And so that's going to kind of wrap up our concept of brand mastery for real estate investors there. So here we go. Step number 1, laying the foundation, essential branding concept. So what we got here is Brock laying the foundation for his empire. Yep, totally nailed it.
Is Brock in here today?
I didn't see him initially. Like we said, this is the essential side. So we'll jump in here to the next slide. All right. So we got Derek here thinking about why his brand exists. So brand purpose. This is really the first thing when it comes to thinking about a brand and how you want to brand yourself. You have to understand what is the purpose of your brand. We'll get into Vivid Vision next because that's more kind of building out like the framework here in a second. But you need to uncover what is your brand's purpose. So you're going to ask yourself the specific questions like, why do I exist as a real estate investor, and what differentiates me as an investor altogether? Josh, I know you had some specific points on this that you had talked about earlier. What did you want to elaborate on this first 2 parts there?
It's just a couple of different things to think about. I mean, obviously the question seems fairly straightforward. Although it could be you could get very spiritual of why do you exist, but let's not get there. Basically, we're just asking your specific business. Why did you decide to create this business? Why do you want to invest in real estate? And it's because probably you want to make money, right? But it's not all about the money. There's probably some hidden gem, hidden purpose behind it. And your purpose is going to then bleed into everyone else's purpose that partners with you either internally or externally. So like if you really have a passion for human trafficking, right? You love real estate, you're using real estate to be able to make a bunch of money, but ultimately your goal, your purpose is because you want to make an impact in preventing or stopping or donating or doing whatever with human trafficking. So anyone else that has that passion that also loves real estate and wants to make money is going to be that much more passionate about wanting to invest with you, what that actually looks like. So that's obviously a pretty extreme example, but just thinking about more overarching, what is it that you're really wanting to do? And then what differentiates you? So the differentiation could be the human trafficking piece, or it could be the fact that you really like skydiving and you want to spend all your time skydiving, but you also love real estate. So you connect with all the skydiving folks of the world. I don't know, right? Whatever differentiates. Identity, what problem do you solve? Why should people care? So maybe the problem is that for us, we found out that we solve the perpetual hold like cash flow problem, right? Not a lot of people were really holding long-term, providing a lot of long-term wealth. It was just all transaction-based in the syndication space. So we quickly found that passive investors loved our model. And so that was a problem that we solved. And of course, why they care is because it helps solve the problem. Emphasize people buy why you do, not what you do. So at the end of the day, realizing that just because you're a syndicator, just because you're providing a service of syndication, doesn't mean that they're wanting to buy into that thing specifically. Oftentimes, it's not even what they're buying at all. They're buying in more so to you, which is the passion and purpose, the drive behind it, which is why you're doing what it is that you're doing. It's something similar to what we were talking about a second ago. And then goal, do business with those who believe in your why. And that's just what you're going to find, is that anyone that actually wants to do business with you internally and externally, it doesn't matter. They're wanting to do it because they believe more in the reason that you're wanting to invest in the first place, which a lot of that is going to then bleed into the vision, like you said, we were just going to talk about in a second.
Yeah. What I'll say here is there's a reason there's so many books that emphasize these concepts, like Simon Sinek, start with why. Or right now I'm reading the book. I don't know if you guys see it. It's called The Art of Impossible. And like the entire first third of the book is talking about the same concept of whatever you're trying to do that you feel is impossible, starting with that baseline foundation of what is your ultimate goal in life. Are you trying to, end world hunger? Are you trying to make, change people's lives through generational wealth creation, or whatever it happens to be? And in what I initially perceived these things as two things, and when I didn't have the right mindset, and I kind of had more of a scarcity mindset, fixed mindset, if you will, before I jumped into like the real estate space. When people would tell me things like this, I would really just scoff it as frou-frou and just fluff. But when you accept, more of a growth mindset mentality with this concept, you'll realize that you can use these as a filter with your actions and what you're taking. So if why do you exist is for creating generational wealth through, commercial multifamily development or through commercial multi-real estate investment, when something comes along your way that might be another shiny object that doesn't fit into that filter, you can easily use that as a filtration device. Use your reasoning here as a filtration device rather than a limiting effect, where some people view these things as, well, if I define my stuff now, I feel like I'm going to be limiting my options down the road, but that's really not the case. What you're going to be really able to do is you're going to be able to focus on the things that are going to put you closer to that goal rather than divert you from ultimately what you're actually trying to achieve. So just think of it that way, as this is super foundational, and it's really important to take the time up front. And I know we've talked to some of you offhand who have talked to Josh about the initial vision discussion, but you're still struggling with, like, I don't know ultimately what I want to do. And I'm glad you're taking the time to think critically about this phase, because everything else is going to be built upon this. Again, think of Brock building those blocks, right? Those little bit of blocks in a foundation. If you don't build that foundation right, you can't grow an empire on a faulty foundation. So if you really want to build an empire, take the time to build the foundation properly. All right, target audience. So this is Christopher over here he's struggling picking his target audience, what he wants his target to be. So once you have your why, like when I was in the Air Force, the why was obvious, right? We were there to support and defend America, right? That was what we did. But we had missions. We always started with a target and we worked ourselves backwards from there. So if I had to drop a bomb at a specific location, the entire mission derived from what type of bomb needs to hit at this location. Okay, cool. Now we have the type of bomb, but what parameters need to hit? Like, that'll be what altitude I need to be at. Okay, if I'm at that altitude, I might be open up to these certain threats. All right, now how do I defend against these threats? And we just kind of slowly peel back the onion all the way back to takeoff. So what time do we need to take off to drop the bomb at this specific time, plus or minus 5 seconds? And so in order to do that, you have to start with your target and work your way backwards. And it's the same thing here. So once you know your why, it should help kind of determine the audience from there. But if you can determine a specific audience, that'll help align everything else you're doing with your kind of brand development here. So you're going to tailor your mission and your missions to the audience as they need. Like the next bullet point here is going to be, don't be broad with your audience. So don't be like, hey, I want to change mothers' lives by real estate development or real estate generational wealth through I want to change the lives of mothers through generational wealth and real estate development. Like, okay, that might be good. Then maybe that's specific enough, but maybe you can narrow that down a little bit more to a specific type of mothers or a specific type of person. Like the example that we have here is pilots with over $250,000 of income that work abroad. That way you can really, the more you niche down with an audience, the more you're going to be able to focus your messaging to not be just kind of white noise in the background, versus if there's a pilot out there who's flying overseas and you have an ad or some sort of branded message or some reel that talks specifically to them, you better believe they're going to listen, versus saying, hey, all you mothers out there, you want to make more money. Like you understand there's a difference of like being more specific with your messaging. So it'll resonate more with your audience and you'll see more conversion because of it. And it kind of drives home the last point here. If you truly do have a competitive advantage if you focus on these niche markets. It's the same thing in real estate sales. It's the same thing in a lot of different spaces where people feel like, all right, well, I want to make the most sales possible. I want to get a hold of the most investors possible. I want to talk to the most brokers possible. And while it seems like a wise choice to cast the widest net possible, it doesn't always bear the best fruit though. So if you want to get the big fish out there, sometimes you need to have very targeted bait, and you need to be in very specific spots in the ocean in order to get that fish, right? So it's kind of the same concept here, being intentional about what you're going after. Josh, any other points, or Reggie, any other points on like picking your target audience?
Yeah, I was going to say you can kind of reverse engineer actually picking the audience as well. So some people are probably thinking, well, I don't know if I care about pilots or if I care about moms or if I care about any of these other people. I don't really know who I need. I just know that I want to raise a bunch of money and, be successful. And that may be all that you know right now. That's not the worst thing in the world, but in picking the target audience, a way that you can think about actually reverse engineering it is thinking about, let's say, for instance, the perpetuity model, right? Let's say you really want to target the perpetuity model. So then something you can be thinking about is who out there in the world or in the United States would be interested in investing enough cash, like they're going to have at least $50,000 to $100,000 lying around. So they have to be doing some kind of job that makes that much money, but would also be interested in investing knowing that they're going to have cash flow for 20 to 30 years. Like knowing that this isn't a rapid equity play for them. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'm not targeting old people. Maybe I'm not targeting 60-plus-year-olds because they're coming closer to the end of life or they're coming closer to retirement and they want to enjoy the cash that they actually built over the last 60 years. And so they don't want to have their money in a deal and do whatever. Maybe it's younger people that you would be focusing on. So it's things like that can actually help you reverse engineer choosing an audience, because sometimes it can be difficult.
Yeah, and that'll help you determine, like, we don't deal with a lot of like private equity firms or hedge funds, because a lot of those guys are very transactional and they don't really, not that they don't like the perpetuity model, but they're looking for more of the quick buck, right? They're looking for more of the quick turnaround, and that's kind of their general MO. Where if your goal was to target, small private equity firms, you might have a different vision. You might have a different goal in mind, and it might not involve the perpetuity model. It might have a completely different model that really emphasizes the goals and the needs and desires of private equity firms. Or insurance companies, or name whatever kind of outlet of cash that you're trying to target as your audience. Reggie, any additional thoughts you want to throw in here before we move on to the next one?
No, I think in this area, a lot of what people are attracted to is you, and that's why the brand is important. And I have a different take on this than I think you guys do, but I think it's with the same thought in mind. But that's why I think a lot of popular and famous syndicators, they have a strong personality. They've developed their brand, but this is a very important component to that.
Yeah, and to this point, this is when you can really create the avatar of your target audience at this point, right? You can figure out who that avatar is. Like I just went through this same thing as I was writing my book. I hired a coach to help me write my book, from the structure of the book and backwards. And the very first thing we started with was, all right, well, who's the audience for your book? Because like everything else is going to be derived from that audience. And I love the exercise that we did with the coach, because it was like over the course of 2 days, call it probably 4 to 5 hours, we sat there and we developed the avatar of the person. We said, okay, this is a 32-year-old person who had a prior career in X. Now they're a real estate agent doing this number of sales. They live in this area. And so like once we narrowed it down to like even giving my avatar a name, it just made it personalized everything more. So as I'm writing the book, if I read it, if we throw an anecdote in there that I thought was useful, but doesn't really resonate with, we'll call him Tim. All right, Tim is my target audience. But if Tim wouldn't resonate with our own right now, or Tim would think it's boring or doesn't apply, then that was kind of my litmus test of whether it should be included in the book or not. And you can do the same thing in this as you kind of build out their persona. What is their age? What is their gender? Where do they live? What's their education level? What are their motivations, their goals, their fears, or pain points, or whatever it happens to be. What influencers do they follow? So you can kind of mimic the influencer side, and you can really kind of grow this avatar that you can build out to be to help you even more as you go from branding to marketing and advertising. All right, building your brand story and being consistent here. Here we have Ashley. She built out her brand story, and she's pleasantly reading her brand story after she finished it. And she's looking about how awesome she is, and how awesome her brand story is. So this is one of Josh's specialties, right? This is where you creating your brand story and being consistent with that brand. We'll talk here at the end, but initially creating the story is going to come with creating that vivid vision, which is going to be built on those things that we've kind of already talked about, which will help you clearly articulate who you are. So Josh, I know this is one of your big kind of passion points here, but do you want to kind of elaborate a little more on the vivid vision?
Yeah. So for any of you that actually haven't yet had a conversation with me about the vision, I encourage you to go ahead and set up that call so we can have that conversation. From a very broad view, the vision in and of itself, being that of a very vivid one, is designed to be a 3-year outlook into what it is that you actually want your business and your life and everything to look like, feel like, smell like, taste like quite literally everything. Because once you have that, you can fully understand what needs to be done to be able to reverse engineer how you need to get there. And when I'm saying that, a lot of people may be thinking that from a very big picture perspective. Like, okay, yeah, big picture, I just want, 100 million assets under management, and I want to be making $100,000 a month or $100,000 a year or whatever. And those are great things to think about, but I'm talking about real granular. So even thinking about how many hours a week do I want to work? How many employees do I want in my company? What markets do I want to be involved in? Why do I want to be involved in those markets? I always say there's really 4 questions you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about crafting a vision. The one question you have to ask yourself is when, because we are writing the vision as if everything's already happened in the 3-year time frame. So the 4 questions to ask yourself is what, who, why, and how. So to use my vision as an example, or to just try to give an example of how those questions can even be thought of or why they should be asked in the first place, one of the subtopics of my vision is basically how we've helped thousands of people create financial independence. Okay, yeah, that's great, but that doesn't really give any clarity about anything. So to try to give clarity to that, to make it vivid, you have to be thinking about who are these thousands of people that we've helped create financial independence. You have to think about what does financial independence even mean? Like, what does that mean to us? What does that mean to other people? How do we know we've hit that goal? We got to think about why. Why the heck do I care that all these people have financial independence? And then you got to think about how. What have I done? How have I been able to help these thousands of people actually achieve that level of financial independence? So those are the types of questions you should be thinking about as you're thinking about actually crafting it. But then contemplating and executing on what you actually want it to look like, company culture, how you're going to treat your passive investors. Do you want to invest for passion, for purpose? Do you want to invest just to make a bunch of money? Do you want to buy a bunch of Ferraris? Do you, what does all of that actually look like for you? And that will honestly, a lot of similar to what Matt was talking about just a second ago, it will be the litmus test or the filtration system that prevents you from getting the shiny object syndrome and chasing things that don't make sense. It's like, look, I want long-term wealth. I want $50,000 a month in passive income in 3 years, and I only want to work 15 hours a week. Well, then I probably shouldn't be chasing all these thousands of different asset classes and niches in different markets with different business plans, because then I'm going to be working 60 hours a week. And I'm not actually helping myself achieve the goal that I set out to achieve. So in and of itself, that's kind of what the vivid vision is. For any of you that are curious to hear more about it, one, of course, we need to set up a call if we haven't already, but also go check out the book. I definitely did not coin the vivid vision by any means, but if you go check out the book by Cameron Herold, with an E, HEROLD. It's like 165 pages. It's not too terribly long, but it is a great book. And after I created my vision, it gave me some serious clarity, which helped me get out of the $60,000 hole I was in from the fourplex, and ultimately helped get me to where I am today.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. It's super quick read, like you said. It's a very consumable book in that, and it helped the three of us too, because Josh had his personal vivid vision, but we sat down and had the three of us, and it was just good to have those partnership discussions of like where are we trying to take this, and it'll help give you clarity to see if the partnership is like, are we on the same path here? The book's called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. So yeah, great book. All right, so from there, once you have your brand kind of set, you have your vivid vision where you're trying to go. The thing here is you want to consistently convey what this brand story is. So once you have your vivid vision set, the one thing I love about the book, it'll tell you to literally write it down. Like some of the examples are like put it in a news article, as if somebody wrote a news article about you in a newspaper. And you write it out, and that is your news article about you in 5 years, in 10 years, whatever your time frame happens to be. And it's pretty cool to do that. Or you can have it in in book format, or like a social media post format, or you can just write it down. I mean, there's different ways to write down your vivid vision, but it'll help you maintain that consistent brand throughout. And like we said, it hits home here of it's going to address who you are, what you offer, and why should people care. And you can keep your vivid vision internal. But there are plenty of companies that use that vivid vision and they'll convey it. They'll pass it to banks. Yeah, thanks, Christian. They'll say, hey, here's our company. Here's what our goal. Here's where we want to be in 5 years. Here's an article about us in 5 years. It sounds quirky, but it actually it's pretty impressive when banks, there are other people in your industry see things like that.
Yeah, that's what it looks like from the cover. In case you're looking online.
Perfect. The from an emotional standpoint, as you're writing your story, try to truly come up, like put yourself in the shoes of you in the future, and try to write it emotionally. Like it'll drive you to take action, and hopefully be consistent and overcome the challenges of today in order to get to the goal where you're trying to go. So I would encourage you to not use bland, boring language as you're writing your vivid vision. Try to be as as emotional as you can to kind of strike that personal chord and strike the chord with people as you pass your vivid vision to your investors, your customers, to whoever else you're planning on passing it to, if you want to at all.
Yeah, it also really helps build writing, and specifically with the emotional kind of language. It helps build focus, passion, just drive and excitement about shooting, not only shooting for your goals, but ultimately achieving it. I don't know if anyone's ever actually read the book Gap versus the Gain. But writing it in this way, and writing something like a vision on the front end, and then using that to reverse engineer how you're going to get to where you're going to get, helps you then measure the gain and not the gap. Which the difference between the two is, let's say I wanted 100 million, or I wanted 3 million assets under management. Once I get 3 million assets under management, it's like, great, I achieved it. Now I want 10 million assets under management. And now there's another gap that you got to fill. Then you fill that gap, and then the new gap is 50 million. And the new is always a gap. You never feel like you've really done anything. You always feel like there's more to be done. Whereas if you measure things specifically from the gain, like, man, how far have I really come from initially starting this journey, from initially wanting to do this, and writing something like a vivid vision, knowing where you came from and what it is that you're like building towards, and seeing everything come to light, it helps a lot.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Another fantastic book. I know we have a lot of book references today, but The Gap and the Gain is a wonderful book. That's a newer one. I think it came out like last year. It definitely struck a chord with me. All right. The last thing we'll say is, as you're building out this personality, this brand personality, just making sure you're consistent, obviously, as you're messaging it, but also consistent across all platforms. So whatever platforms you are using as megaphone, whatever mountains you're standing upon to yell out your story, just make sure you're not, one person over here, but a completely different person over here when you say that same message. It's much more difficult to try to keep up two stories. So if you go to the local gardening club and you're like, hey guys, I'm over here and I want to talk about investing, and I just love peace and quiet with gardens, and then next thing you go to, like, I don't know, the Harley Davidson place, and you're like, loud noises, everyone, let's go ride some Harleys and let's go do this. You know, like you're going to have some little bit of dissonance right there. And so you don't want to have that kind of duplicity there. So this will all kind of drive to the point of you want your brand to be authentically you. It's all going to be driven around who you are authentically, and everything else should come relatively naturally from there. It's not like Josh. He is a Southern boy, right? He talks slowly, and that's Josh. He's not trying to convey that he's some like rich dude who talks fast and he's slick and he's got all this other stuff, right? Because Josh is who he is authentically. Same thing with Reggie. I love both of them, but I got to pause in between every sentence they say because they just talk so slowly. Where I'm from the North and I talk faster. We just have different personalities, right? So my branding is going to be different than the Southern boys of Josh and Reggie, but their branding attracts a certain clientele that my branding does not, and vice versa. And so it's not necessarily bad or good. Just realize your branding will attract your crowd if you do it right.
Calling me out, man. It's funny you mentioned that. My wife has mentioned that a couple of times, and I'm like, I don't talk slow, but now that you've said it and she said it, it must be true. So
it's not a bad thing. I don't say talk slow means you're dumb or anything like that. It's an observation of people in the South generally talk slower.
Right.
That's okay.
Another example of just consistency across different platforms. Another would be something like on one platform, you say you're really family oriented, personal kind of business, personal kind of entity or brand. And then in another one, you've got the hustle culture where you're like, oh, grind, man. I'm working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week all the time. No time to spend with the family. No time to have fun. You got to grind and put in the work to see success. And then over here, you're like, oh, yeah, look, I'm hanging out with the wife and the kid. We're having a blast. We're going on beach vacations and stuff all the time because family's important. And it's like, this dude, he can't make up his mind. So just remaining consistent.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna bounce out from here. I'll let you guys finish it, but good seeing you guys, and good luck. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the AI there. Talk soon, guys.
Later.
See ya.
All right, Reggie, do you have anything you want to add there, actually?
No, you can move on.
All right, brand name. So the name, this is Deshaun. Digging deep to find some unique names. I don't think Deshaun's on the call tonight, but that's doing him dirty right there. So that's funny. Your name is women, right? When you think about a brand name, it's not the end all be all. I would say it's that we are absolutely terrible at coming up with names. I mean, I'm probably the last person you should be asking how to come up with a name for your company. So instead of telling you what name to choose more specifically, I just tell you about how to maybe think about actually coming up with the name and how that actually plays a part in the branding and in your marketing and in who you are. So for us, I mean, like our company name's 3 Beach Capital, right? Like it was Greenlight Capital before that. And we were trying to think of just like some innuendos, some purpose, some meaning behind a lot of that. Then we got a cease and desist letter, and then we had to switch to 3 Beach Capital. And so we came up more so with a name just to come up with the name more than think about a lot of the other aspects of branding, which hindsight being 2020, sometimes I wish we maybe would have thought a little harder about the name, but it's also not the end all be all because you are basically your brand. You are the company, especially if you got some kind of personal brand or small company. You're not a company like Apple, right? Like when people think of Apple, they don't think of the thousands and thousands of employees that work there. It's not a personal brand. It's a huge corporation. But when people think about like you, Paul, they're going to think of Chaz Capital, Paul Chazaretta. They're not going to think about anything else outside of that. So the name, whereas it's important, it's not entirely the end all be all. But to go through some of these, basically, the name obviously is a commitment. Once you pick one, you want to stick with it. Can you change your name down the road? Yes. Do you want to change your name? No. You want to try to remain, again, as consistent as possible. And it is going to impact all other aspects of your actual brand. It's going to impact the logo. It's going to impact the domain. It's going to impact like your email address, right? I was just talking to a couple of you guys on some calls today. And if we have a long name like XYZ Real Estate Investors in Carolina LLC, like just some ridiculously long name, that's a domain that no one's ever going to think to research. It's a domain that is going to be hard to find. It's also going to be really difficult when you think about creating a professional email address and you have to type that in everywhere. It's not going to be easy. So choosing a name that is hard to imitate or confuse is definitely important. So you don't want to create a company that sounds really similar to another company. So Like for us, we've got Free Beach Capital. You don't want to create another company called Capital Free Beach. Just trying to think of a way to just rephrase it. It's not usually all that beneficial, because still then what you're going to end up finding is people that search that via SEO, or people that search you on social media or what have you, they're going to end up finding the other company before they find you, because the other company is going to be more established than you are. And so you're going to end up getting buried, and you're not really going to be able to be found all that well. And of course, you also don't want to confuse you with other people. So when people actually find your brand or find your company and they think it's you, but really it's a different website, you don't want people to get confused. So brand name should be clear, simple, memorable. At the end of the day, just like Ferrari Capital, Free Beach Capital, just simplicity. You don't want to confuse it. You don't want to make it too offhand, I guess. And then memorable just in the sense that you want people not to easily forget your brand. Not for people not to easily forget you, of course, you as an individual, 100%. But then on top of that, like, what was the name of that guy's company? What does he do? I think he said something about real estate in the 1 hour that we had that conversation, but I can't remember what he does. Like, you don't want that to be you. You want to be memorable. And so the brand name, and of course, just your persona, your personality, you all is going to bleed through in your branding and in your marketing. Checking for the domain, URL availability, and simplicity is another thing that you can do when you're even thinking about how to craft a name. So when you're thinking about what name should I even choose, check if FerrariCapital.com is even available. Check if XYZinvesting.com is literally even exists. I usually prefer the .com domain because it's just the most widely searched type of domain in Google and Yahoo and anywhere else that people will do Google searches. Friggin' ChatGPT now. .com is definitely preferable. So if you have to like rephrase it a little bit or think about it in a little different way or get unique with it, there's a lot of different ways you can actually think about crafting a name. So then lastly, basically testing the name for unintended meanings or similarities, or vice versa, testing it for what does it mean when you're thinking about crafting a name. Like Leo, I think Leo's, I hope I don't butcher it, but I think the name of his company is like Sunstone Capital, which I thought was really cool. You know, it's just what does sun and stone mean to him? What does it mean to his company? What does it mean to the pillars of what makes him who he is and what makes his company what it is? And how that, like, his name literally bleeds into the company culture of his business. It was cool that there was multiple meanings and that Sunstone Capital was available as a domain, right? So all of that being available just made it very beneficial, right? Beneficial, easy, simple, memorable for him. And then unintended meanings being something like, you don't want to pick a name for a company that could actually mean something terrible. And then when every time people search it, they never find you. Instead, they find the X-rated website that you never wanted them to find in the first place. Or that's worst case scenario, but like something along those lines. And the way that you could figure that out is basically just asking some friends. So like if you think you've come up with a name, you're really excited about it, just go to a couple of close friends who maybe don't even know anything about real estate, or maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't think it really matters. Just be like, hey, I've got this name. What do you think of? And what's like the first thing that comes to their mind that you never even thought to think of in the first place? And they're like, man, the first thing that comes to my mind is unprofessional. Like just, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a noob. It's like, oh, well, I don't want that as what people think about when they think about me and my company. But anyway, Reggie, do you have anything to add to this one?
No, just a couple of brief comments. Words are important. So while you can make the name good, you can take Apple is a great example. You would never think to name a company Apple, but they did it. Now it's like a household name. And also something else that I just remember. So when I was in grad school, I did some research for Pfizer Pharmaceutical in the areas of like targeted drug synthesis. And I learned a lot about how they choose names for drugs. And I know you've seen the commercials on TV, and sometimes you can't even pronounce half of them, but they use a lot of psychology when they name these drugs. And like there's certain letters that they love to use that they think generate or inspire confidence in the drug. Like you see a lot of drugs with the letter X in it. And there's some connotation there, but they put so much thought into even what each letter and combination of letters inspires in other people. It's multi-billion-dollar industry. I guess they have budgets to spend on somebody sitting around a room or a group of people sitting around a room thinking about this kind of stuff. But point is, words are important and they can convey a lot. And then I guess the last point, a bad example. So I played in band in bands when I was in college and I still do. But the fun thing to do was always come up with the band name. And it was so hard. You could come up with 100 names, but I don't know if any of you guys listen to like hard rock, heavy metal, but there's a band, a German band out there called, oh man, why did I had a brain fart there. Excuse me, guys. I've got to look this up or it's going to just ruin the entire series here.
Yeah.
Rammstein. Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this German metal band called Rammstein, but in the US, we just think it's okay. This is German band. This is its name. But in Germany, it's actually like horribly offensive word. It's like if a band in the US named themselves like the Holocaust or something. Like it's kind of like, it's very analogous. It's like something to do with the Holocaust. It's like a very sensitive subject, very offensive. So obviously, like you have to take into account like, I guess cultural experiences and like the background of words and stuff, because you don't want those types of associations. So it's an extreme example, I know, but just a few little comments that come to mind.
That's a good one. I like it. All right, next one, logo design. So you got Sammer creates.
He's got some skills.
Are you in the call of this today? I thought I saw your AI, but I don't think I saw you. Take a kick out of this one. Logo's brand's visual identifier. So like we've got a 3D logo. It's quite literally just like a little palm tree with, does it have a coconut? I don't think it has. Maybe it has a coconut on the tree.
It should.
And then there's like the beach, like underneath the tree. It's almost like it's its own little island. So that's like Tree Beach. Now Ferrari Capital, I don't even have a car on it. It's literally just like an F inside of a C, because capital encompasses the speed. Like capital is what we use to accelerate our ability to achieve success. That's why F's inside the C. I don't know if anyone thought about that, but that's why it's like that. So the logo you can get creative with. You can think about things like that. But at the end of the day, that's going to be something that someone sees that they directly associate with you. And I know we keep using Apple as an example, but it's a great example. It's like Apple. It's literally just a bite out of an apple. Like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It can be simple. And as far as actually coming up with one, right? Consider outsourcing designing to legitimate professionals. Because when I was thinking about trying to create mine, man, I had no idea where to even begin for both Three Beach and Ferrari Capital. I was at such a loss. And so I had a friend literally that I just went to church with that was like, hey bro, I'll put together some design. Like I do logo design. I'll put some together for you for like $50. It's like, bet, here's $50. And he put together like 3 or 4 for me. And he's the one that came up with the FC thing. And he doesn't even know anything about real estate. I was like, this is pretty cool. I guess some people just have more creative juices than others. And that was not my area of forte, logo design. But anyway, so it's really cheap to actually go consider hiring someone. You can hire a friend, like I said, that you already know that's good at it. Or there's people on Fiverr or places like Upwork that can also do it pretty cheap. They give you a couple of design logos. You look at them, you don't like any of them, then you just make them go back and you do the whole thing. Or if you like some, hopefully they give you like a couple of options. Ensure logo versatility for various digital applications. So there's, once you actually create a logo, you want a logo with like a bunch of different backgrounds. So with a clear background so that you can really put it anywhere on anything. One with maybe a black background, one with white backgrounds. It depends where you're going to put it and how you're going to actually utilize it. And you don't want to have to go back to that same person that you only hired one time 3 years ago to be like, hey, you remember me? No, I don't remember you. Oh, well, can you create this logo again? And please give me a white background. You don't want that. Just want them to go ahead and create everything for you all at one time, give it all to you so that you can use it anywhere that you see fit, anywhere that needs to be used, basically. Keep design simple, recognizable, relevant. So I gave you the example of mine and the Three Beach basically being, it's beachy. We're a bunch of beach lovers. We all live close to the beach. We like the warmer weather. And that's also just so happen to be where a lot of our investments are. Well, not only do we like the beach and not only do we live local to the beach, but we just like coastal investment areas. Logo should reflect your brand's personality and promise. So at the end of the day, when you're thinking about who you are as a person, like we like the beach. So 3 Beach tied in with the name and tied in with the logo. And so like Ferrari Capital could have had like a car in it, but I didn't want to be that cheesy. So I was like, I don't really want the car in the logo. But what is like your actual personality? Maybe if my personality was that of being cheesy, maybe I would have added a Ferrari in there. But that just wasn't me. So what actually defines you, and how does that reflect? So anyway, Reggie, you got anything to add about logos?
I would just say if you outsource, which, if you're like us, I highly recommend. Most of those marketing companies that do that, they also offer branding advice too. Like they can give you like an entire marketing, advertising, branding package, and where they work collaboratively with you and develop all that. They do the hard work. They just extract the ideas from you to get going. You iterate it a little bit, and then boom, there it is. So obviously, the more you pay, the more you get. But just as an example, I think what did it cost for our logo, Josh? Like $500?
For a logo? I thought it was like 100.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it wasn't a lot. So, but the last point. So when you do hire those folks, they typically give you like the entire package that Josh mentioned. Like it's pretty customary. They give you black backgrounds, white backgrounds, reverse images, clear backgrounds, different sizes, and they'll give you all these different iterations of your logo for all different kinds of uses, different resolutions. Yeah, a lot of times that comes prepackaged, so makes it kind of easy. But
when you just mentioned hiring people, it reminded me of Southern View Media, who we hired for the RV park, and then it reminded me of the logo we have for that one. And that one's actually pretty cool. I forgot to mention.
Oh yeah, that's a good example.
It's like an RV. Can we pull it up actually?
Yeah.
Where would I go to find it?
I think it's under logo in the. Actually, it should still be in. It's either in Slack or it'll be in the Google Drive. You should just be able to Google like logo package maybe. I wish the website was published. I guess it will be in 4 or 5 days.
Marketing.
Yeah, we went through a few iterations with the logo, and this is for our RV park, but it's on Orange Grove Road, and so they were trying to incorporate the orange theme into it somehow, and I think they did a really good job. And
I don't want to waste too much time. We'll have to find it and show everyone. I'll send it in Slack once I find it so everyone can see it. But yeah, I thought they did a pretty good job. It's basically like an RV mixed with with oranges on it. That was kind of cool. But anyway, that's logos. So website. We'll take a deeper dive, obviously, into legitimate website development once we get into the 4th lesson. This is just really going to be an overview of thinking about what your website should look like. And here we have Ben creating a truly epic website. Although I don't know if he is, if he's staring at the camera, should be staring at the screen. So maybe there's something to be said there. No, I'm kidding. Matt is freaking AI. Websites. What's the purpose of the website in the first place? Obviously, it gives your brand credibility. So when you think about that, you think about anytime anyone's going to look you up, there's really 2 main places people are going to look, especially in this day and age. First one being social media, and the second one being your online presence. The best way to have an online presence is to have a website. So it basically gives you not only credibility, but like proof that you're legit, proof that you know who you are, that they know that you're like someone who actually invests. Once you have a website, for some reason, it just builds this level of credibility that you otherwise didn't have if you only had social media. A lot of times when you go and you look up like I know I do this anyway, but maybe a lot of people don't do this, but I do this. When I'm looking up something like a restaurant, like where are we going to eat in town? And I look up some local hole in the wall place, or I just look up a restaurant, pulls up, and it's got like a couple reviews, and got the phone number on there. They got their business hours on there, and there's no website. not going. I'm not going to that restaurant. They don't even have a website. Like, I want to go to their website. I want to see their menu. I want to see what they're all about. I don't want to give them my business if I can't even tell that they're like a legit restaurant. It could be completely and utterly bogus for all I know. The website just builds this secondary level of credibility that nothing else can really give you, even social media. So building one out is fairly inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. And it definitely helps you out tremendously. Now, does it have to be extremely professional? No. The very first website that you build doesn't have to be the grand websites, but you also don't want it to be extremely basic and useless. You want it to be user-friendly and you want it to be useful. You want people to actually be able to click one or two buttons and do exactly what it is that you want them to do, which is probably schedule a call with you or some kind of opt-in where they can put in their name, email, phone number, sign up to be your investor list, something, so that they get into your actual, inner circle of your brand and who you are. You can get them on the list, because it's one thing to have a bunch of followers on social media. It's another thing to have a giant list of people's personal information and people that know, like, and trust you that are interested enough to want you to contact them or for them to want to contact you so that they can ultimately become an investor or do whatever it is that you want them to do, whatever the call to action is. So it's a platform for potential investors to know you. So once you actually craft your vision, your website will be another place that the vision actually is, as well as, of course, you'll have some kind of about me section there as well, which usually has your like actual bios. It's just a background about you, which the vision is more forward looking and the bio is more of like, who are you and what have you done? Well, like literally up to this point, not 3 years in the future, but what have you done to now? So people just getting to know more about you, even as an individual, but also just like your portfolio, how many deals have you bought? What markets do you buy in? What kind of assets are you even looking to target? What is your company all about? Hey, I'm a syndication company. You and 10,000 other people in the United States, who are you and what do you do that's different? Well, we invest in Houston, Texas. Okay, you and 10,000 other people in the United States. You know what I mean? It's like there's a bunch of people in Houston. Okay, well, we invest in Houston and multifamily, only B and C class, only 40 to 100 units. We do that because we believe we can do this, this, and this, and we can have on-site management. We have these teams in place to help us do this. Just letting people know you and understand your business, your company, a little bit better. Another thing that I really found beneficial for the website is to have some kind of like education for people that are jumping on there, because you'll have some people that jump on that don't know a lick about nothing. They jump on and they don't know anything about real estate investing. They don't know anything about syndication. They don't know anything about multifamily. So I wrote that little ebook that's like the ultimate guide to multifamily syndication, so that anyone wants to just know anything about it in and of itself, they can download it. It's an opt-in, so I immediately get all their information. They're now in my list, and they were able to be educated by me about this business that just continues to portray me as an industry professional because I knew about it and I took the time to create this and let them get that piece of information. So it's just another thing that helps you specifically on the website side. While crucial, social media will be your driving force. So if I'm being honest, I get probably 90% of the leads, investors, you guys, right? You all found about me through social media. You didn't go to FerrariCapital.com and be like, hey, check this guy out. Some people do, right? It's few and far between. Some people will check out their website, but it's usually a secondary form of credibility, right? Like I've got the podcast, right? A lot of people will hear about me on the podcast and then they'll go check out social media or they'll go to the website to learn more about me, right? Learn more about us and what we do in our company. So it's definitely something that I think is important. I think it's honestly pretty foundational to your ability to scale and to be seen as a professional in the industry. But it doesn't have to be, the king website of all websites. Like when I initially built my website, I actually built it. So I just went to Squarespace. It was like $200 a year for the service that they provide, whatever their like platform is that you can build it out on. And then it was $20 for the domain. Usually it is if you're buying a domain that isn't super important. I've seen some domains be like millions of dollars, but don't buy that domain. And then it took me a little bit to figure it out because I just wanted to build it out my actual self. So I knew nothing about website building. So I just watched some YouTube videos, figured out how to actually use Squarespace. And that was literally the website I used for 2 years, 2.5 years. And it was sufficient, right? It didn't have to be the best of the best. It was me that built it. I figured it out as I went. but it was not free because there's whatever 200 some odd dollars to use the platform, but it was free in the sense that I didn't have to hire a developer because developers can sometimes be pretty costly. Now, can you hire it out? Yes. For any of you that have ever heard me talk about it before, we hired it out both for the Three Beach website and the Ferrari Capital website, and it was pretty inexpensive. It was like $2,000 for her to build out absolutely everything. So if you want her information, I'd be happy to give that to you for anyone that wants to know. But it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to spend $2,000 and hire a professional developer to build it out. It can be pretty simple. Again, ensure that it's actually informative and user friendly. So you want people to be able to accomplish what you want them to accomplish with as little clicks as possible. You don't want people to go onto your website and have to click on this tab to get on this link, to click on that tab that sends you over here, also that they can schedule a call with you. Like if the end goal of people going to your website is that you want them to schedule a call or you want to get their information, make it like the first thing on the homepage. As soon as they get to the homepage, hey, click right here, or even do like a pop-up. When they get to the homepage or when they get to your website, there's a pop-up that says, so good to see you. Glad you joined us on, whatever you want to say, and then have a link right there in the pop-up that allows them to schedule a call or allows them to submit some kind of like contact form or allows them to sign up to be a part of your investor portal, allows them to do whatever it is that your initial goal was that you want them to do for the people that flow in to your website. And then using SEO strategies to improve your site's visibility. This is pretty simple, pretty basic. A lot of that's done through the actual platform itself. So we use Wix now. We've since transferred over to Wix. I think it's a lot more user-friendly and a lot more versatile. So I would recommend for anyone out there looking to build their own utilizing Wix. It's also cheaper. It's like $140 or $150 for the year or something like that to use, plus your $20 domain every year. But using SEO strategies is something you can implement inside. And if you have no idea what I'm saying when I'm saying SEO, it's just search engine optimization. So what does that actually mean? It's basically when people search certain words, phrases, titles, anything about you or your company. Like if people just search real estate investing, like, are you the first person that comes up? Well, probably not. It's a really broad topic. But if someone searched multifamily syndication in Mobile, Alabama, you darn tootin', I want to be one of the first people that pops up, right? I want to be one of the first people that people get to see Ferrari Capital, Three Beach Capital, people in this specific market doing the exact thing it is that we're doing, or anything for that matter. And so another thing that's been really beneficial for us since I have a podcast is all my podcasts basically get transcribed and then the transcription gets put on the website. So literally anything that I've ever talked about on the podcast and any of the blogs I've ever written and any of the newsletters I've ever written and any of the other education I have on there and the ebook that's on our website and the mastermind tab and like anything, all of that funnels and leads back to my website because it's on the website. So that actually in and of itself helps optimize your SEO. So just having more content actually on your website actually helps you optimize. Doing something to think about. Reggie, you got anything to add about websites?
Just on the SEO piece, it can get pretty sophisticated if you hire like a really good company to do your website and they handle the SEO. Like Google, for instance, I think now there's over 60 algorithms, maybe more now. I've stopped keeping up with it, but there's a lot of algorithms that they use and they rotate them randomly. So there's only maybe 10 or 20 at play at any given time, but they randomly change algorithms in and out so that it kind of diversifies your what pops up when you Google something. So somebody that's really good at SEO will be very familiar with the background, and like I said, you can get very sophisticated with it. If you have your brand down, you got your target audience, you could really dial it in with some good SEO.
Whoop, whoop. Oh, do you have a question, Paul?
Well, yeah, I think you're going to go into it. So I do have a question.
Social media.
Yeah, no. Well, so okay, let me just ask it because I'm trying to finalize my website actually at the moment. On your Invest Next. Okay, no. So when you on the bottom of the website, when it has newsletter or sign up now, you put your name, phone number, email. Does that go directly to the Wix forms, or do you have it linked to like Constant Contact or directly to Invest Next?
I have it linked to our CRM, which we use ActiveCampaign as our CRM. It's actually a form you build through ActiveCampaign that you then embed the code into the website. Really cool how it all works. I'm not super techy, but how it all works. And then once they fill the form out on your website, it automatically uploads all the data and all the information from the form that was filled out into the CRM. And then you can have different automations and drip campaigns and things like that built out that people get put into once they put in that information. So you don't have to be manually doing all that every time someone fills out a form
So you did yours through Constant Contact.
through ActiveCampaign.
Oh, Active Campaign. Okay.
I know some people that use Constant Contact. I know some people use HubSpot. There's one other one. I can't remember the name of it. There's a variety of them out there. You just pick one that works the best for you. It's best for your budget. It does everything you need it to do. One thing that really differentiated me wanting to use ActiveCampaign versus like some of the other ones is I wanted to make sure that it was one that integrated with like all the other softwares that I used. I'm like, these
Right.
are the other softwares that I'm using. Is there already a direct integration built in with this platform that I can use while also making sure the actual software itself has all the tools and resources that I want it to have? And that it checked all the boxes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, obviously we'll do a deeper dive again and about social media, but just giving you the broad basics here, high level. Social media engagement, robust online presence is vital. And again, the primary way that you're going to be able to do that is through social media. We could literally spend many various series talking about social media. But in and of itself, you just want to make sure that you are consistent and have a presence. The consistency is usually the hardest part. I mean, it's the hardest part with most anything, but especially social media. A lot of things that people really struggle with is content creation. You know, what on earth am I going to post about once a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year? Like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to talk about. What do people want to hear? Well, a lot of that builds back through the branding and marketing that you initially had when you thought about your target audience, when you thought about your brand persona, when you thought about your personality, when you think about the kind of model that you use, when you think about a lot of those things, you think about what to actually post. What are people going to care about? And then there's some other deeper thoughts behind it, which we'll get into at another time. But in terms of content creation, a great way that I have found to create great content is to basically spend like the week prior, maybe on a Saturday night, a Sunday night, or maybe the Friday before the following week, or maybe you really want to do it early Monday morning. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Before that week starts, the following week starts, you sit down for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, however long you think it's going to take you to actually come up with this content. And you create something more, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe efficient. So like give the entire week a goal. So maybe for that week, you really want the primary thing that you're going to be discussing to be around whatever, creative financing. So if you really want to talk about creative financing every day, then just pick a different topic of creative financing. Pick like Monday, talk about how one time you looked at this deal 3 different ways in the traditional sense of how to do a syndication. None of it worked. Then all of a sudden you thought, oh, wait, I can do this a little bit more creatively and we can encompass creative financing and we can do owner financing. We can do this. And suddenly the deal made sense. We closed it. We bought it. It was great. We made millions. Like, obviously that's not going to be the entire story, but thinking about like an example of how you encompass creative financing. And then on Tuesday, think about, oh, shoot. Okay, so you just did a story yesterday. Today, let's do something educational. So we talked about seller financing yesterday. Today, I want to talk about what that actually is. So here's the definition of what that is and how that actually, here's like 5 benefits that we found both on our side. And here's 5 benefits we found on the seller side. It's actually really cool. Can't believe I didn't know about it before. And it's helped me close a bunch of deals. And then Wednesday, you could talk about like whatever, like every day, it's just something that has to do with creative financing. So you almost pick like a theme for the week. It's something you can do. Obviously, not something you have to do, but that way you're not so sporadic every day. Because sometimes you'll find that some people's social media posts are just completely and utterly different every single day, which some people have really short attention spans. So maybe that's the way you want to do it. But the way that the algorithms actually are appeased is through consistency. And when I say consistency, I mean not only continuing to do it, but also having content that is somewhat thematic, if that's a word, follows a similar theme and has similar engagement. Engagement is also a huge thing in social media. That was probably a little much. We'll go more in depth about all that on the next lesson. But regular posting, follower engagement are definitely key. Having as much actual engagement on the post as you can is going to be really vital. Typically, the first 30 to 60 minutes of a post is the absolute definition of whether or not that post is going to succeed or not. So you want to get the most amount of engagement as you can in that time frame. So a lot of times what I'll do is once someone comments on my post, typically not I, my VA, will then go behind them and reply to their comment on my post. Increases engagement, shows that I'm active, that I'm visible, and then that the continued engagement that's received through that process usually boosts the algorithm and allows it to see a lot more people. Show authenticity by sharing real experiences. Again, it's just authentic as you possibly can be. That's what I found to be the best thing, especially with social media. If you can really like connect emotionally with people, and usually the best way to do that is through personal experiences. So like we were talking about with the creative financing piece, just talking about how you looked at a deal a bunch of different ways, it didn't work. Suddenly the creative financing way worked, and now bam, you were able to close the deal and make a bunch of money. And people are like, wow, that's so cool that they were able to do that. Now I know I need to be looking at deals creatively. And next time I look at a deal, I'm going to make sure that I do that as one of the first things that I look at instead of the traditional route, because it seems like in this market, that's making more sense for people out there actually doing it. Suddenly you're helping people, you're adding value, then they want to give back, engage, and make sure they continue to follow you, right? And there's a bunch of different ways to be authentic, but just in and of itself, authenticity. Utilize various platforms to broaden reach. So we've got a ton of platforms here. I don't even know what all these are. We have Pinterest, Twitter, which Twitter isn't Twitter anymore now. It's X, by the way. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I have no idea what that is or that. Is that Messenger? Maybe. LinkedIn, that's the most important one. And it's the one that I've seen the most success in anyway. Line, I don't know what that is either. Snapchat, I'm not on Snapchat. But anyway, be on as many of the platforms as you want to be, but as many platforms as you choose to be on, consistency is going to be the key. So you're not ever going to see any level of true success utilizing, 20 different social media platforms if you're not consistent on every single one of those. And when I say consistency, I mean not only posting, but engaging. Because another thing that will actually destroy your engagement, destroy the visibility on your posts, is if after you post, you have to go engage on other people's posts. If you don't engage on at least 3 other people's posts, liking or commenting within like a 30-minute time frame after you post, then Facebook, LinkedIn, they don't like you because they're like, oh, well, you only care about yourself. Like you're not engaging with the algorithm. So the more you engage with the algorithm, the more engagement it gives you. Kind of like a marriage, I guess. But anyway, various platforms. Pick a few, pick whatever, and a lot of this can come from your target avatar too. So like maybe TikTok. You love TikTok because your audience is just young people that love to dance that have a bunch of money. I don't know. Whatever your audience is, pick the platforms you think they're going to be on. Be consistent with that. Social media boosts your brand and attracts investors. Abso-freaking-lutely. I've raised the majority of the cash that we've been able to raise through social media. It's my primary avenue of branding and marketing. And it's all organic, right? It's not like you're paying thousands of dollars to be on social media and do all this stuff. It just takes time, which some people prefer to pay a bunch of money and bypass the time, but a lot of us don't have a bunch of money to pay in the first place to even bypass the time, which you can't do anyway with the algorithms. It's just going to take time to build that audience. So doing so through your social media platforms is going to be a game changer when it's all said and done. Reggie, you got anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple of things. On the authenticity piece, that's really important. I've been in corporate sales world for a decade and a half, and I've been through more sales trainings than I care to admit, but there were some interesting psychological tidbits that we would get through some of those courses. And there was this one concept about Johari's window, and basically it's like what you know about yourself and what you show other people. But my key takeaway from that one concept was that there's strength in vulnerability. So if you expose yourself, if you show something, make yourself vulnerable to your audience, they resonate with that. They look at that. They can identify with that. If you portray that you have this perfect family, perfect life, you never fail, everything's going great, sometimes it can be hard to identify with that type of person. And so, showing that vulnerability can help. I think that was my only comment.
Okay. I just uploaded the thing that you sent, Reggie, the Orange Grove logo for those of you that want to check it out in the Slack channel. All right, community engagement. So this is basically like meetups and things of the sort, publicize your brand's community initiatives. So this could be community outside of what it is that you're already maybe internally doing, like meetups or real estate investor associations or conferences or things like that. But this could also be, what other level of community are you actually doing? How are you actually engaging with the local community for positive brand image, even remote investors, right? Just how are you engaging with the local community? How are you making an impact in the community that you're investing in? I know one group of investors, and they donate like 20% to a local charity in every community that they actually invest in. And they donate to a charity that they actually believe in every community that they invest in. So let's say they invest in Mobile, Alabama, and there's a charity that gives to the homeless in Mobile, and they feel very passionate about that. 20% of all the profits they make from that investment, they're going to donate on top of their time that they're going to donate to make sure that it goes to the right person and it does the right thing to impact that community. And they do that for everywhere. So Houston, Texas, Seattle, Washington, like every market that they're in, they make sure that that's a key component of them, because that's just who they are. And so that's an additional branding piece, an additional personalization, authenticity piece that also helps people connect with you emotionally, which of course is helping people make the decision on whether or not they want to invest with you. Because at the end of the day, they're investing with why you do it, not just that you do it. So if you can develop that persona, it's going to do nothing but benefit you. And you can do those things through things like social media and a website. Consider partnerships or sponsorships for visibility. So this is obviously once you, as far as partner or sponsorships go anyway, once you actually start making a little bit more money. I'm sure you guys have seen any conference you've ever gone to. A lot of local real estate meetups will even do it. You have sponsorships, right? Podcast, my podcast. I have a couple of sponsors that even sponsor me, right? I've built a large audience. I've built a large brand. I have a lot of people that tune into the show. And so people want to get access to the audience that I've built. So they will pay me money so that they can have that brand exposure and accelerate their marketing, basically. So you're kind of doing the same thing, accelerating visibility, getting access to an audience that you otherwise wouldn't have had access to. And again, that can be done through a sponsorship, directly actually paying for something, or that can also be done through like a podcast, like not necessarily your podcast, but you can guest appear on other people's podcasts and get immediate access to their audience as well. And then it just takes what, an hour out of your day to be able to do something like that. And then who knows the investors, the visibility, the engagement, what have you, that you would receive from jumping on to something like that. I can't tell you how many people I've had reach out to me and they're like, hey man, I heard you on so-and-so's podcast. I'm like, I literally don't remember doing that interview. I don't even remember the name of that show or the name of the person that I talked to on that show, which feels terrible, but it's like, that's cool that you heard about me from there and you cared enough to then reach out to me because whatever I said spoke to you so deeply that you wanted to reach out and set up a call or get on our list or do whatever. And then of course, partnerships. So actually having a partnership with someone that has a large brand or a larger presence or what have you, or same thing can be said for just GPing in general. Partnerships are a great way to increase your visibility. Like if you partner with a company like, for those of you guys that remember Rise 48, Zach Appenstall that came and talked to us a couple of months ago. Dude's got over $2 billion worth of assets under management, 250 full-time employees, and like thousands and thousands of investors. Partner with a company like Rise 48, and you're going to get some tremendous exposure to people that you otherwise wouldn't have had exposure to. Even just being able to say, hey, look, I'm partnered with Rise 48. Come invest in our deals. It kind of builds that instant credibility. Community engagement builds trust and loyalty, right? That's internal community engagement, external community engagement. Of course, you're engaging like in the actual community that you're investing in, or if you're engaging in like conferences, or if you're engaging in communities online, if you're engaged, there's like virtual meetups and stuff that you can go to, social media, again, just being present, existing in the space. You don't want to be the guy or gal that never posts on social media or that posts all the time, but you never comment on anyone else's. You don't ever like anyone else's. You don't ever talk to anyone else. You're just a recluse chilling at your house, not doing anything. People have no idea that you even exist. They need to know that you exist. So you can build your visibility, you can build your brand, you can build your trust, your loyalty, that following, right? The following and the engagement is what's then going to build a need to your ability to scale, your ability to get employees, your ability to hire, fire, scale, all that good stuff. What do you got, Reggie? Anything?
On the community engagement piece, you know, one area I found to be successful for like networking, it's like local business expos. You know, you might have a national association of realtors. You might have, like in Mobile, there's I think it's Mobile Apartment Association. So it's property management professionals, owners, maintenance companies. So yeah, it may not be necessarily geared for finding investors per se, but some of the other outreach programs will allow you to do that. BNI is another good one, Business Network. Wait, you know, what does it stand for? I've gone to a couple of those. And there's others too. And then I think outside of that, nope, I think that's all I had.
Sweet. Group ideas and feedback session. And that's it. That covers it all. You can build an impressive structure upon a strong foundation, just like Brooke. That's so good. Love it. All right. Does anyone, we can't see anyone's face, but Ravi, you are the man. No one else wants us to see them. Anyone have any questions about anything we talked about? Branding, anything?
No, you answered my question about that website linking, because I found it to be the longest part. Because I've attached all, like, now I don't have a Facebook, so I'm trying to create a Facebook. But I've attached like the Instagram. I've attached I don't know. I'm building out the blog right now, just to at least write 2 of them, just so that way all of it's done. And then I'm connecting my investor portal from InvestNext onto the website, kind of the way I've seen yours has, and somebody else's. Happenstall has it on his as well.
Yeah, you can actually directly integrate it into the website, or I think what we did, honestly, we just had the login button at the top. So we just created it as like a completely separate thing that people would go off of our primary website to get into. But some people actually utilize, because there's a thing you can use inside InvestNext where once you create a deal room or once you create a project, you can take that project and like paste it into your actual website. And then that can kind of be part of your portfolio. And then it's live action, like updated with the financials that are updating as you're updating your portal, as you're sending distributions and things.
Very sweet.
Backwards hat Dan. You got any question?
Nah, I don't got anything.
Nada. Christian, I feel like
You guys explained it so well that there's just
It's
nothing
gotta
left.
be it. It's gotta be it.
Everybody's pondering.
That
Sean,
is-
I like your business name. It's your name backwards, capital.
Is it like
Yeah.
that?
Sean at Nate's Capital.
Nays Capital. First time he told me that he named it Nays, I was like, I don't know. When I first thought about it, I'm like, I don't know if I like that. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, it actually sounds like a really professional, legit company. You know how sometimes the companies that seem the most legit and are worth billions of dollars have names that make no sense?
Yeah.
Like Nays.
That's
or
a great
something.
idea.
And I'm like, that seems like a pretty sweet name. Anyway,
He has no comment.
he must be away from
He's
you.
he's overwhelmed with the compliments.
Oh,
Oh, he's back. He's back.
he didn't even know we were talking about.
Awesome.
Josh, I got a quick question. You mentioned like going on someone's podcast. I guess you're clearly like with Three Beach Capital, like you have your own assets, like you're a presence on social media. How can someone like myself who doesn't really have that track record get on someone else's podcast or leverage other people on social media to help me out?
There's a lot of people that are just starting their podcast or have honestly had a podcast that's been running for years and they still only have like 3 people that listen to it. They don't have a large audience. It's not going to be extreme exposure. But there are some newer podcasts out there of people that would be willing to basically bring you on the show. And once you start getting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 podcasts, one, not only do you build comfortability in like going through that whole interview process with the podcast, understanding what questions are typically asked and kind of how the flow of them go. But also it gives you more credibility to then go and get on other people's shows. You know, when you see other people that seem a little bit more successful that have been posting for a while or that have a larger following on their show, say, hey, I've been on 5, 6 other podcasts. Here's a couple of examples of some podcasts I've been on. Would love to be a part of your show and share my story and share my journey. Honestly, a lot of people that reach out to me, they just reach out to me cold turkey. Hey man, found you on so and so, see, killing it, crushing it, whatever, you know, and I would love to be on your show and talk about blah blah blah. And then they just give me the whole bio of their life and everything that they've done in business. And then I just make a decision whether or not I think they're a good fit. And also what you can do costs money, but to each their own, something you want to do. There are agencies out there that actually you can hire that will go and get you on other people's podcasts. Like you pay them whatever it is, $500, $1,000, whatever the cost is from that agency. And they'll say, okay, with the price that you paid me, I will get you on 20 podcasts that meet this criteria. Give them the criteria that you're looking for. And then they'll go and do all of the communication and research and scheduling for you to get on these other people's shows. And then it's basically like helping you brand and market yourself. Because they usually already have connections with all of the top people anyway, because they probably already had other really larger guests come on to these people's shows. So then the person or someone like myself really likes them because they keep sending them great guests. And then they'll just send them another guest, send them someone like you. Like, hey, I think this guy named Ethan Max, I think he would be a really good fit for your show. Here's his one pager, more information about him. Here's some topics I think you could talk about. Some of the experience, journey that he's gone through in real estate and things that he's done, and how I think he can benefit you or your audience. You let me know if you think he'd be of interest. That's it.
Cool. And I guess like what form of, I might have actually asked you this the other day, but what form of social media do you find to be the most beneficial? Is this just like when you post on LinkedIn every day, or do you find that after podcasts, like a lot of people reach out?
It varies, but LinkedIn and Facebook are the only actual 2 platforms that I'm consistent with or really on. And I try to post at least 5 times a week, but it doesn't always happen. Sometimes a day will go by and I didn't create content the day before or the week before for that day. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Day goes by, I'll just post tomorrow. So I try to be as consistent as possible, but if you slip up every now and then, it's not the end of the world. But as far as like the type of content, it's really going to depend on your target market, your audience, and what they like. And you're only going to know that through basically split testing, through actually posting and seeing how much engagement you get with certain kinds of posts. So post something that requires people to engage. That's a podcast. See if they like it. If no one likes it, it's like, okay, that's just one data point. Let me do it 2 or 3 more times at different days, at different times, and see, do they still not like it? All right, well, maybe they just don't like it. Maybe my audience hates podcasts. I need to post something else. So split test in the sense that don't just try something once and give up on it. Try it a couple of times, different days, different times of the day, or maybe at the same time of day, but just different days. I don't know. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you.
I did see your recent sponsored commercial on Instagram today, Josh.
You did. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That means I'm reaching the right people.
I was like, oh, look at that.
I like it. That means I am reaching the right people. I've tried with my target audience on that dadgum paid ad for weeks to reach the right people. It's really difficult to figure out Facebook, but
No, this was on Instagram.
well, Facebook and Instagram are the same company,
Same thing, yeah.
so it bleeds into Instagram. But
Okay, nice.
I tried, and now I think we finally slowly started to see some success. But cool. What do you think of it? Was it lame?
No, at first I thought it was like a post that you posted because I was gonna like thumbs up the message, whatever, or heart the message, or even forward it, onto my own channel or whatever. And then I saw it was like sponsored ad, and I was like, whoa, look at this. This is really sweet.
Sponsored ad. Yep, we're official.
Yeah, that's like,
Ads.
it was like that's pretty official right there.
Good timing for tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Oh, Reggie, I was going to say one of the other things too on the community engagement, and for everybody out there, looking at like for Texas, we have like Greater Houston Partnership. Every city has like their community for like what is it called? Like our counties, like we have a Harris County group, there's Sugar Land County group. A lot of those you can just go and they'll have networking events on a monthly basis. Those are free. If you join, they usually charge, I think, I don't know, $130 for the year or something of that sort. And then there's like also look at, because I was doing this through Houston through some of our local magazines. I think I paid like, I don't know, $150 for 3 months in like one particular neighborhood's news magazine. And they're like, oh, we reached 5,500 doors. And I think it was like $300 for 3 months. And they were like, we'll even let you post like, a bio or whatever. Unfortunately, Merrill was a little more stringent on how we can post things, but that's another good way to get in front of your audience. And the accountant says it's a write-off for advertising costs. So
Everything's a write-off.
and hopefully that's helpful for somebody.
Cool. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks, Paul.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for tonight. So we'll reconvene, at least on this topic, next Thursday to go over part 2, which will be, what did we say, social media? Yeah, social media deep dive discussion on how to best utilize it, specifically for your branding and marketing, which will probably also be the time. I know Oliver's not on this call, but he was the one asking me, and then someone else mentioned it. Paul, I think he actually mentioned it. We're going to be talking about VAs, right? And how you can encompass things like that into your social media, how you can best kind of utilize them just in general, not even just social media. But anyway, that's next Thursday. But we will reconvene on Monday. So if anyone has any questions between now and then, feel free to let us know. Otherwise, everyone have a great weekend.